This is the most exciting video I've made on my channel so far. Fantasy Flight Games reached out to me and then sent me 2 cards from the upcoming Magneto pack. And here they are. It's M, a 4-cost ally, and Children of the Atom, a 1-cost support. And in this video, I'm going to be going over how they work, doing an analysis of them, and then also talking about how to use them. And at the end, giving my final thoughts on the pack and Magneto and these cards in general. So starting with M is a 4-cost ally in the leadership aspect. 2 thwart, 3 attack, but takes 2 consequential for that 3 attack, has the psionic trait, the X-Men trait, and then a response that says after M enters play, defeat a minion with fewer remaining hit points than M. This ability is super cool to me, and there's a lot of ways that you can optimize this and make really powerful decks out of it, which I'll go over in a bit. And then Children of the Atom is absolutely crazy to me. This is the most excited I've been for a card, I think, ever since my time in Marvel Champions. So it's a basic card, so you can use it in any aspect that you choose for your deck, and it says play under any player's control, max 1 per player. Each X-Factor, X-Force, and X-Men character you control gains the X-Factor, X-Force, and X-Men traits. And there is so much going on with this card. But first, before we dive all the way into Children of the Atom, let's go over M. So notice it says remaining hit points in the response. So when M enters play, M has 4 health. That means you can defeat an enemy with fewer remaining hit points than M. So if the enemy has 3 health, you can defeat that enemy. So if you think about a character like Melter now, which is a pretty big minion, with 5 health, you're not just out of luck. So because this has remaining hit points and not printed hit points, that means that you could attack with Magneto first, bring Melter down to 3 remaining hit points, and then M can still defeat Melter, even though Melter has 5 printed hit points. M says after M enters play, defeat a minion with fewer remaining hit points than M. It does not say fewer remaining hit points than M's printed hit points. That means cards like Uncanny X-Men and Team Training can actually increase her hit points. That means you can get M all the way up to 6 health. And then when the response triggers, you can deal 5 damage to an enemy after entering play. So the only real downside about M is that M costs 4. But I don't think that's going to be that difficult because there's many ways to get around that and be able to afford it. You'll also notice that M has the psionic trait, meaning Power of the Mind will double the number of resources it generates when paying for M because M is a psionic card. Power of Leadership, which has been around since the core box, also works for M. Uncanny X-Men will be able to reduce the cost of M if all of your characters have the X-Men trait. And then Team Building Exercise, if M shares a trait with your hero, also can do that. And remember the other card that I'm going to go over. That makes all of this super viable on M. So even though M is 4 cost, I think the effect is super powerful and really fun. I really like having the 3 attack and the 2 thwart on the ally. And I'm definitely going to be adding M into my decks. And now we can move on to the other card, which I am more excited for. Children of the Atom. Place under any player's control, max 1 per player. Each X-Factor, X-Force, and X-Men character you control gains the X-Factor, X-Force, and X-Men traits. So this is absolutely crazy to me. The very first thing that came to mind was Uncanny X-Force and Uncanny X-Men. You can't have both of them in play because you can only control max 1 team card per player. But that means if you're playing an X-Men character, you'll be able to play Children of the Atom and then use Uncanny X-Force. And vice versa. If you're playing an X-Force character, you'll be able to play Children of the Atom and then play Uncanny X-Men. Along with that, all of the training upgrades for the X-Men allies will work because they say attached to an X-Men ally, meaning that you can add these training upgrades to other characters that used to be just X-Force. So some examples that came to mind immediately were these allies. Marrow is X-Force, X-23 is X-Force, Cable is X-Force, Beak is X-Men, and Triage is X-Men. So before, all of these allies kind of felt a bit clunky to me, and it was kind of like frustrating that I couldn't play X-23 or Cable in my X-Men decks because it ruined my trait synergies. But now with Children of the Atom, you can use basically any mutant character that you want and then have all of your cards work. That means that Triage will be able to heal 2 damage from Cable if you have Children of the Atom out. Beak will be able to remove threat for having Cable and X-23 out, which is super fun. And then also, if you look at the other cards that were coming out recently, They were kind of foreshadowing that this was going to happen. So we have Mutant Mayhem, Alliance, choose an X-Force ally and an X-Men ally and return them to their owner's hands. Those players play those allies ignoring their resource costs. Suddenly, that's not difficult at all to meet, along with Gunboat Diplomacy, which is an attack thwart alliance, where you can exhaust an X-Force character and an X-Men character, and then remove X threat from schemes in play, and deal X damage among the enemies in play, where X is the combined thwart of the two exhausted characters. Combined forces, exhaust an X-Force character and an X-Men character, defeat a non-elite minion. Which these cards I thought were really cool, but I hadn't really got around to using yet. And now that I have Children of the Atom, even in solo, these are going to be great cards that work super well. And remember, Children of the Atom is not just your allies. It also works on your identity. So because it says each character, that means that Phoenix is going to have the X-Force and X-Factor trait. Cable will have the X-Man and X-Factor trait. X-23 gets X-Men and X-Factor. Psylocke gets X-Men and X-Factor. It feels like there's no limitations now. So cards like IPAC, for instance, play only for identity has the X-Force trait. I can now play on Phoenix because each character gets the X-Force trait that I have, which is IPAC is a great card and I love that card. Well, I'm also a Star-Lord player. I love Star-Lord, so it makes sense that I'd like IPAC. And it's so good for final pushes. So especially Phoenix, when I'm playing Phoenix in aggression like I like to do, I'll be able to deal myself an encounter card to draw 2 cards, get the resources I need and the damage I need to take out the villain, and then just not worry about the encounter cards because you're able to win on that turn. It's so good for final pushes. Stepford Cuckoos you could use on Cable, for instance. X-23 I think would be really fun with the X-Chat, because X-23 has all these cheap cards, and then it kind of feels bad. Like I don't want to spend one of X-23's cheap cards to pay for another one of her cheap cards. So characters like that, like X-23 and Nebula, I really enjoy resource generators on. But the X-Jet before this could only generate a resource for an identity who has the X-Men trait, and X-23 did not have that. But now Children of the Atom fixes that, so I can now play Children of the Atom and the X-Jet in my X-23 deck, which is super fun. Utopia, after an X-Men ally enters play, exhaust Utopia, you can ready an X-Men character. The first one I thought about was Psylocke, because Psylocke can choose whether you want to have 3 thwart or 3 attack with the weapon upgrades. So then when you play the allies, you'll be able to ready up Psylocke and get the 3 thwart or the 3 damage that you need in that turn, because Psylocke now has the X-Men trait. And don't forget about the X factors. So Multiple Man and Warlock came out earlier. Like Multiple Man is quite an old card, and I was always kind of sad looking at these because I was like, I don't have anything to do with the X Factor trait. Like, there's nothing I can build around with that. But now with Children of the Atom, Multiple Man and Warlock can now join the ranks of the X-Force and X-Men characters, and that feels amazing. I'm also really curious to see if they actually expand on the X Factor trait going forward. I'm not sure. I have no idea if they will or not, but that would be cool too. And then when you think about the other cards that were in the article that came out a while ago, Magneto came with some great leadership cards. So Cyclops and Phoenix are just really cool X-Men leadership allies. Won't Stay Down in particular gets a big boost from Children of the Atom. Play only if your identity has the X-Force or X-Men trait. Alter Ego action, discard this card. Return an X-Force or X-Men ally from your discard pile to your hand. Notably, Children of the Atom is not going to give the characters in your discard pile the traits, but still, you'll get to choose between X-Force and X-Men in your discard pile. And since it's more convenient now to actually add those different traits into your deck, it just makes Won't Stay Down make more sense to me. Noble Sacrifice has a fun synergy with M. It says discard an ally you control, heal damage from your hero equal to that ally's printed hit points, and give your hero a tough status card. Getting a 4 hit point ally to go with Noble Sacrifice, so you're then healing 4 health from your hero, and then also getting a tough feels really good. So M can come in, defeat a minion, thwart 2, attack for 3, and then discard to heal you 4 and give you a tough status card. That sounds really fun. And then new recruits, play only if your identity has the X-Men trait, which now, with Children of the Atom, is going to work for all the X-Force characters as well. And I really like the idea of these linked allies. So like Anil over here, linked new recruits if you have the mutant or X-Men trait. Anil gets +1 thwart and does not count against your ally limit, which combos really well with Cyclops, because Cyclops will increase the amount of damage the enemy takes from each attack by 1. So if you can get a horde of allies out, play Cyclops, and then attack with all of them, that'll be really cool. And since Anil doesn't count towards your ally limit, it's a great combo there. On to Magneto as a whole. These aspect cards are amazing to me. It also feels so thematic to me that Magneto is the one that's uniting all of the mutants under like into one team. So before this, the X Factor and X Force and X Men characters were all kind of separate and they weren't really working that well together. But now Magneto united all of them, and I love that, which it's kind of thematic in like a meta way of we had all this division among the X Factor and X Men characters, and now Magneto in like the story and Magneto in with the actual cards is uniting all these characters together, and I love that. It really feels like this Magneto pack is conclusively finishing the X-Men wave, which is super exciting to me. After seeing all these cards, the rest of the X-Men cards and X-Force cards, this whole last wave makes so much more sense to me. And it feels like there's endless possibilities for me now to deck build, especially in leadership, which is my favorite aspect, which is another reason I was really excited that Fantasy Flight sent me some leadership cards to look at. Once Magneto comes out, I can assure you I'm going to be building a lot of X-Men decks and using Children of the Atom to try to do some really fun stuff. These aspect reveals have got me even more excited for Magneto, and I can't wait to get him in my hands. And I can't wait to get Magneto. Let me know what you all think in the comments below. Do you like M? Do you like Children of the Atom? How are you planning on using them as well? I'm curious to hear that. And also, eventually I'm going to be playing Magneto on my stream. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5 to 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'll be playing Marvel Champions. Come hang out with me. Talk about Marvel Champions. It'll be a great time. While you're at it, like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitch. Join the Discord. Let's talk about Marvel Champions. And stay zesty. I'll see you in the next one.